Judith, you've enjoyed working with the governing bodies of federations for some time. What makes federated governing bodies so special?
Well, the governing body of any school has three core functions. To ensure the clarity of the vision and ethos and strategic direction of the school, to hold the head teacher to account for the school's performance, and to make sure that the budget is spent wisely. Now, in a federation, not only does the governing body have to look after those functions for each of the schools in the federation, but they also need to look after the strategic direction of the federation as a whole and ensure that it makes the best use of all the opportunities that are available to it. Research tends to show that while governing bodies are very successful initially in the setting up of the federation, that the impact they have in the later stages in terms of setting the direction and evaluating the progress of the federation isn't as strong.
Do you need to have any particular skills to be a governor on a federated governing body?
I think you need to be able to see the bigger picture and not get sidetracked by operational issues or the needs of individual children in the classroom. So you need to be a good strategic thinker, able to grasp the priorities both for each school but also for the federation as a whole. You also need to be able to challenge school leaders to ensure that every child, wherever their learning takes place, makes the best possible progress and is benefiting from the additional opportunities that federation provides.
What happens when two or more governing bodies have to become one?
Well, of course, federation is all about the governance arrangements. The process of federation means that on the date that's decided to go forward, the governing body of each individual school is dissolved and a new governing body takes over, following, of course, the federation regulations. This is an excellent opportunity to make sure that those joining the new governing body have the most appropriate skills, as well as a passion for federation and an understanding of all the benefits that it can bring. I think too that consulting and communicating effectively with parents, staff, pupils and the community at the earliest stage is really important when considering federation, so that any barriers that may arise as a result of concern about change are avoided.
What do you see as the benefits of federation?
Well, I think the key benefit has to be improved opportunities for the children, which includes a wider and richer curriculum that includes cross-federation events. Staff can share expertise, plan together jointly, and enjoy better career development as they have the opportunity to operate across more than one school. This is particularly important in the area of leadership development. If the federation schools share a head teacher, the leadership in each school must still remain effective when the head teacher is in another school. And so future leaders can have the opportunity to be mentored by experienced leaders and progress more quickly. Financial efficiencies made possible by federation enable more money to be spent on staff. And all this means improved behaviour, attainment and enjoyment of school by the children.
And what do you see as the challenges of federation?
Well, bringing together different working cultures always presents challenges. And in this case, of course, it's important to maintain the distinctive characteristics of each school. Another benefit of federation is that parents still retain a choice of school that they want their child to go to. And we need to remember that federation isn't amalgamation. Every governor needs to remember that they're a governor of more than one school and need to know each of them equally well. A good test might be if a governor could show people round each school and be able to explain how it operates. Good time management's essential. There's no time for anything that isn't a strategic priority. And the structure of the governing body is important to make sure that they spend the limited time that they have on the things that are going to make the most difference to the education of the children. For example, some governing bodies are choosing now to meet more frequently as a full governing body rather than to set up committees. And individual governors take responsibility for particular areas of work, monitor them between meetings and report back regularly to the governing body. I think too that effective communication across a federation can be a problem, and it's vital that all parts of the community do feel well informed and are engaged with the federation's development.
How do you make sure that the governance of your federation is always the best it can be?
Well, of course, it's important to make sure that membership is kept up to date and that those members have the skills to do the job well. Effective leadership is important, and good succession planning so that the governing body develops a pool of future leaders. That, together with professional clerking, always underpins good governance. They regularly need to audit their skills, review their performance to ensure that any gaps can be filled, either when recruiting or through development of the governing body. And governors should, of course, support and challenge the Federation's leaders in their efforts to raise attainment and to benefit from all the opportunities that Federation brings.
You mentioned at the beginning the 2 layers of responsibility that a governing body of a federation must ensure. Can you give an example of how that works in practice?
Yes, of course. One governing body is accountable both for each school and for the Federation as a whole. So, for example, each school retains its own character and individuality and will be subject to its own Ofsted inspection. So the governing body must be thoroughly familiar with the data for each school and able to hold the leaders of each school to account for standards and progress in that school through informed questioning, so that then they in turn can answer any questions that an Ofsted inspector may ask. And while addressing the needs of each school in this way, they must also make the most of the benefits that arise from schools working together and rise to that strategic challenge of developing and evaluating the Federation as a whole.
Thank you, Judith.